The U.S. government now sending aid to the people. But Venezuela's socialist dictator is refusing all of it, even sending the Venezuelan army to the Colombian border to prevent the food and medical supplies from the U.S. from getting into the country. Think about that for a second. You have a nation that's starving, a nation where 90% of the people live in poverty. They're living on less than $3 a day there. A nation where people are hungry enough to loot food trucks, as you see there in this exclusive video. A nation that is so strapped for cash that its hospitals are unsanitary. I want you to see this. This is also exclusive video of a hospital in Venezuela. This is why the people are rising up. This is why they want a new start, a new opportunity. And yet the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who just weeks ago told me her nation is a model of justice, now tells me the Maduro regime isn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, sources tell me we are working closely tonight with neighboring countries in the region because we've heard the people's cries for help. We understand the Maduro threat to our region, and we want to help. Watch my interview with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo here. What is our plan in Venezuela?
Plan's very straightforward. We're supporting the Venezuelan people who have for far too long now suffered under the hands of Mr. Maduro. The people know better. The humanitarian crisis is real. He conducted a sham election, then declared himself president, and we simply have said we're not going to recognize that. There are now almost 4 countries that have taken this same view, that have recognized the interim president, Mr. Guaido, as the president of Venezuela, rightly, duly empowered under the Venezuelan constitution, under the people of Venezuela's own power, to deliver good outcomes for them. You know, Trish, today we tried to deliver humanitarian assistance from Colombia, from the United States and Colombia into Venezuela, and the Venezuelan military, under the direction of Mr. Maduro, stopped that. Not only is he not allowing the economy to flourish, he is actively denying medicine and foodstuffs and hygiene kits for his own people. This is horrific stuff, and I think the Venezuelan people have had enough of it, and I'm confident that in the days and weeks ahead they will continue to protest, continue to rise up, and their wishes will be seen forth. We're doing everything we can to make sure that the countries in the region help us do that.
I mean, to me, you know, he's controlling the military, and I know you've seen some success. For example, there was an Air Force general that said, okay, I'm going to switch sides. How do you get more of those military members to switch sides? Because, you know, ultimately, doesn't it come down to that?
So, you know, there's two interesting things I think about that. First, there's been some notion that there'd be an invasion of Venezuela. Well, that happened. The Cubans invaded Venezuela. The Cubans have been controlling the security apparatus, protecting Maduro, and destroying the way of life for the Venezuelan people for an awfully long time. The second thing, I'm convinced that many of the individuals that are inside the Venezuelan military don't want to do harm to their brothers and sisters, to their children and their grandparents. I think they care about the Venezuelan people too. I think over time they will come to see that Maduro's time is up and change should be at hand.
There are 5 Americans that are in prison right now being held hostage by Nicolas Maduro. 6 people actually left from the U.S. to go down to what they thought was a business meeting. They worked for Citgo, which was owned by PDVSA. They thought it was a normal business meeting in Caracas. And the next thing they know, they wind up in prison. Again, 5 U.S. citizens, and then another person who was working here with a green card. What are we doing to help them, to get them out? Because, you know, America can't stand for that. We can't allow a dictator to lock up our people.
Trish, I can't talk much about any individual case. I can tell the American people this. First, anywhere there's an American who is wrongfully detained, in this case by the thug Maduro, the United States government is incredibly focused on obtaining their release. We've been pretty successful in President Trump's first 2 years in doing that. President Trump and my team are rightfully proud of the work that we've done. In the case of Venezuela, I can assure the American people that we are working diligently to make sure that no American is wrongfully detained by Mr. Maduro.
And the families in Texas and Louisiana You can assure them that you're working hard.
There is no effort that is being spared in returning the Americans who are wrongfully detained, and frankly in Venezuela and elsewhere in the world as well.
Let me ask you about sort of the process for this, because again, how do you get rid of a dictator, right? I mean, this is a guy who's clinging to power. He's clinging to his military. There's certainly been precedent. We've done it before. John Bolton has said to me on this show, well, you know, he should take the deal. He should take the amnesty deal and live happily ever after on a beach in a villa somewhere far, far away from Venezuela. But how do you get from point A to point B in order for him to take that deal?
We've seen this before. Dictators cling to power until the moment they no longer can. And we hope that moment when Maduro realizes he no longer has the support of the Venezuelan people in material ways, and the military begins to recognize that to see Venezuela move forward, to see the good things that most Venezuelans want for themselves and for their families, when they recognize that the time is up and that there's no more negotiating, there's no more talking, there's no more fraudulent elections to be held. You can't cling to power. We hope that day comes sooner. It will matter to the Venezuelan people. They'll be out of fuel before too terribly long. The shelves in the stores are already bare. The humanitarian crisis there is very real, and I think that's why you see the globe rise up. I mean, it's seldom been the case in South America. You know the history, Trish. Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Colombia, I'll forget names here, sitting here live, are all rallying to the aid of the Venezuelan people. I am convinced that their fellow South Americans will be a powerful influence in Maduro realizing that his days are over.
It's heartening to see. It's heartening to see the people taking to the streets in the name of freedom and in the name of democracy. And it's heartening to see the United States standing with them in that endeavor. Let me ask you about some of the sanctions we've put in place. Do you feel that those are working? There are people, investors that have invested in Venezuelan sovereign debt or PDVSA debt that feel some concern because they worry you're shutting down the market, and in doing so, you're shutting down the market to Americans, thereby allowing the likes of the Russians or the Chinese or any of the other bad guys that want to come in and buy this stuff up on the cheap the opportunity to do so. Are the sanctions working, and what can you say to ease some of their fears?
So, Tricia, it's the case. When America makes a decision to impose sanctions, it sometimes has adverse impacts on Americans. There's no doubt about that. They're not free. But this time they're really worth it. Sanctions matter over time. They don't matter so much on day one or day two, but over time. Deny the Maduro regime the resources to conduct business, which includes paying salaries to the military, and to try and transfer those resources to the duly elected interim president, Mr. Guaido. If we can accomplish that, then that money, those resources will go for the good of the Venezuelan people and not for the evil of Mr. Maduro. That's the objective of our sanctions. You know, we are still, in spite of the sanctions, providing humanitarian assistance.
And you'll keep doing so.
We will. These aren't aimed at the Venezuelan people. Indeed, just the opposite. They're aimed at achieving a really good outcome for the people of Venezuela.
Why is this so important for our hemisphere?
You know, we should not permit a country in our hemisphere to treat its own people this way. American values, America's, not only our interests, but our values are at stake here. We had someone hijack an election in the Western Hemisphere, and the people of that country revolted against it. We ought to do all that we can to rally the global community to reject that as a way of doing business in the Western Hemisphere.
And do we run the risk that if we're not there, Russia is?
Russia's there today. The Cubans are there today. We are very hopeful that when this peaceful transition takes place, which is our ultimate objective, that the Venezuelan people will want to be sovereign and independent, not rely on Cubans and Russians for their security or their well-being.
Would be great. I think they would like that. Do you have concerns that Venezuela runs the risk of turning into a no man's land, where you have these bad actors, including some with links to Hezbollah, that could be more of a threat because they're in our hemisphere?
Yeah, Tricia, I'm glad you brought that up. People don't recognize that Hezbollah has active cells the Iranians are impacting the people of Venezuela and throughout South America. We have an obligation to take down that risk for America, and part of what we'll talk about next week in Warsaw is certainly how we do that in South America and all across the globe.
All across the world. Well, keep it up. Keep us safe.
Thank you
so much, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
Good
Wonderful
to have
to be
you
with
here.
you.
Thank you.